Hey guys, I'm Flory Marquez and I'm one of the two founders of BlockFi. And today we're doing an at-home studio version of BlockFi Live. And I'm here with our Director of People Operations, Meg. Hey, Meg.
Great to talk to you.
We're also joined by two other members of our dog operations team, BMO. Who's that?
This is Doc.
Uh, BlockFi, for those of you guys that don't know, is actually a dog-friendly office. So when we're not quarantined at home here in New York City and we're actually working together, we're also joined by many members of our dog teams. I think we have like 4 or 5 dogs that rotate and come into the office. I like to say that BMO is our chief good boy officer.
Certainly is. He's a founding member of the BlockFi team as well.
Exactly. He was here before many of our team members.
Yeah. So I looked to him for guidance.
He's very wise. Yeah. But in terms of our time today, I think a lot of people would love to know more about, what it's like to work at BlockFi. Why do people want to join our team? And who better to tell us than the woman who leads all of our recruitment and culture?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've said from day one, I joined BlockFi in July of last year, which I think, what does that make that? Doing mental math on camera is not something I love doing, but I think I'm creeping towards the 8-ish month mark.
Yeah, we can just say like almost a year, but we always joke that in BlockFi time, 6 months is like, oh, you've been here for 5 years just because we build so much.
Yeah, I'm a veteran at this point. I guess actually with our dog theme, we're sort of on dog years at BlockFi.
Exactly.
When I joined, I joined and sort of started recruiting somewhat for the first time for me as like my primary gig. And I thought that I always said that I would have been a terrible recruiter if I didn't feel super jazzed, super excited about the team. So I think that made my job really easy from day one. It was a very easy sell. Why do we have an easy time recruiting people, and why is BlockFi such an amazing place to work? There's a million different answers. I think part of that, it does at the end of the day come down to the people. This sounds like just flattery, but I think Flory and Zach from day one did an incredible job setting the stage in terms of establishing a really strong culture. And you can feel that from the moment that you kind of join the team or even like walk into the office, I feel. There's just like this tangible sense of the energy that there's been a lot of intent and mindfulness around, how do we build this team? How do we build our product? And how are those things interconnected? And the synchronicity there makes everything that we do vibe and gel really well. We also are fortunate in that we've had some pretty smart, savvy, tenured people join the team early on. So there's this cool, for like a startup that I guess we're coming up on 3 years, but up until recently, we've been saying we've been around for 2 years. We have this like outsized maturity in terms of having these really cool leaders accessible to the full team early on. And that definitely trickled down from, Renee, who's our chief risk officer, head of the prime services part of BlockFi, who, came to us after being at BAML for 15 years to, having SPAC on board really early, building, a compliance first org. I just feel like it's an especially cool place to work because there's these awesome people to learn from, and that culture of learning and like having this knowledge sharing energy, it definitely pervades the entire organization.
Yeah, and I think, you hit on some key points. When you joined, I used to be the person that was doing all of the introductory calls with potential candidates and hiring, and I know that I was really stressed about like handing that torch over to someone else, and I was like, how are we going to find someone who's going to be able to kind of tell our story and explain like everything that we're trying to build and who we are and get people excited? And I can definitely say that you not only were able to do what I was doing, but you were able to even make it better. So our recruitment has been amazing. We were under 60 people at the end of last year, and we're 95 people across 3 countries today, which is insane. And the other thing you hit on was our culture. So I think that's definitely part of hiring. What would you say are the key things that we look at for someone when you're hiring, like, and you're on the phone and you're interviewing people? What are like the key aspects of like their personality or how they work that you look to see if they would be a right fit at BlockFi?
Well, you touched on this earlier, which is that we move incredibly fast at BlockFi. Because 6 months feels like a year here, we definitely need people that can keep up with that pace of work, that energy, and sort of a scrappiness there. So because we've been a pretty lean team, considering all of the products that we've built and what we've been able to achieve in such a short time, everyone is punching above their weight. And you can tell pretty early on if someone generally fits that profile. There's a certain grittiness to that kind of person, which is that they want to be a builder. Part of this, I think, feeds into the fact that we sit at this spot that's like in a nascent industry, we're doing something new. So people that are attracted to what we're building tend to have the personality profile to an extent of being curious about setting precedents, being a builder, doing something for the first time, and like getting their hands dirty a bit. But that's been a huge predictor of success. So again, like I'll turn back to the Renee example, who joined us after being an MD at BAML. Like he built the institutional services side of our team from scratch, and did it all himself, right? So if Renee has like no ego, and that's the same vibe that we get from anyone at every level of the org, from the most junior to the most senior, we need people that will come on and like be ready to be a builder, whether or not they're a little more tenured in their career doing it for the first time, and just have that mindset.
Yeah. And I think that kind of also reminds me of like one of the things that I think is most important that we have at BlockFi is giving people the ability to accelerate their careers and keep on building outside of their roles. So we have a lot of examples of people, that joined on the client service side and ended up becoming our first traders. Most recently, someone from client service moved over to product management. And I think one of my favorite things about how we structure roles and responsibilities and career growth is giving people the opportunity to scale beyond what they've been working on in the past. And I think being able to reward doing someone's job well with the ability to learn more is something that's so valuable and makes being a part of BlockFi even more challenging and fun.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's been huge for us. I mentioned that we have this like learning culture that can manifest in a couple of different ways. I think it helps us stay really cross-functional and connected, but it also can mean that someone gets involved in a different type of work that they have an aptitude for or just an interest in. And it tends to be that like passion and interest like breeds really good work, right? So I love that we have this very human approach to our organization and how we think about our people, right? Like we do not think of people as like round peg, square hole kind of energy or like tools, right? People are people with dynamic interests. We think that everyone's more successful when they're excited, when they're in this like learning and growth mindset. And we love to enable that in a number of different ways. And that can mean that someone might move roles, but it might just mean that they are able to grow. We love to say that we grow as fast as they do. And I also love to say we very much have this orientation towards if something isn't common sense, like if it just doesn't make sense, there's no reason for them to be doing it. And so that can mean it doesn't make sense that we're doing this process this way, let's change it. That should be their first like sign that they need to go to their manager and say, let's build something new. But it can mean like, oh, I work really well this way, I could contribute in this way, it doesn't make sense that I'm not helping the company this way. And we love hearing that too, right? So
yeah, I think you're hitting on one of our key values, which you coined, right? Pragmatic pioneering. We love a good alliteration.
Live on. I'm really proud of the values exercise that we did. And I know, well, we know that you and I spent many, many hours sort of on the wordsmith, but also like ideation part of that project, which basically was, when I talked about it, I would always say we're really just articulating our values. We're not inventing them. Obviously, Zach and Flory from day one were building things in a certain way, making decisions a certain way. And when we're a really small startup, when we're a small company, like everyone has the touch point with someone like a Zach or a Flory. Oh, buddy, come here. I would stand up, but then you'd see him in yoga pants.
We're all working from home.
Anyway,
a real inside look.
This is the real, all right, go on, Betty. Someone's in the kitchen and he loves nothing more than food. Anyway, where was I?
We were talking about values, and I think one really cool thing about how we got to the values was actually the process of doing it, right? It wasn't like you and I sat in a room and we're like, oh, what makes a BlockFi employee, right? Or what makes our culture? Do you want to tell people a little bit about how we did that?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for reminding me. I was basically getting to that and saying that, yeah, we're not like sitting there writing this out, making something from scratch. These values already existed, and it was a really cool exercise because we had everyone on our team, and we have a global team, so we have folks in Argentina, folks in Poland, now US-based remote people, but everyone who was on board at the time, we divided up sort of randomly into small groups where we had a bunch of prompts about basically like what makes BlockFi BlockFi, what do you feel our values are, how do you feel like we've succeeded in the past, like what are the decisions, what are sort of the North Stars, like the guiding principles we turn to when we make decisions, particularly in the gray area when there's uncertainty, what do we think is really important, how do we hire? All of those questions feed into the underlying, values that guide what we do every day. So everyone submitted these lengthy summaries of, their thoughts, their discussions. It also doubled up as an opportunity for folks to speak at length with people they may not work with extensively every day, which I also loved as a part of the process. But from there, we had this massive amount of, data that I went through and organized by theme and kind of summarized. Then the leadership team sort of took a pass through it, and we made a ton of progress there. And from there, it was really a matter of wordsmithing, like honing down to the most essential, what was a non-negotiable, what we couldn't live without, what really felt like essential to what we were building. And that's how we landed on our values. And pragmatic pioneering was a sort of catchphrase to describe something we were trying to speak to. So that was my moment of success from a wordsmithing perspective, but tons of other folks were involved in getting us there. So it was just alliteration at the end.
Yeah, I think that what I love about the values is, one, the process kind of reflects how we work as a company, which was really just everyone coming together, trying to pull in everyone's opinion, regardless of the level of seniority, and knowing that those ideas could come from anyone in our company. And then second was the final result, which is, sometimes you see companies with like 16 values and like 3 different pages describing what each value means. And we knew that if we wanted people to understand the values, remember them, and use them, they had to be short, they had to make sense, and they had to represent how we actually work. So that's how we ended up with the 4, right? Which are pragmatic pioneering, clients, not customers, individual effort, collective success, and then my personal favorite, transparency builds trust, or hashtag TBT. And that one, I don't think we have to walk through every single value because that'll definitely make our interview hours long instead of the short guideline of 25 minutes. But I think transparency is so important. Like for me as a founder, to make sure that we're always communicating with our entire team, everything that we're building, why we're doing things, from which products we're releasing to when we're fundraising. I love that we share our board deck with all of our employees and kind of constantly refresh, like, what's our vision, what's our mission, what are we building together? Because I think it gives people purpose and intention behind what they're working on.
Very much so. Yeah. When people ask me, when I interview someone, I like to make space for them to ask me questions. And when someone asks me about BlockFi's values, if that hasn't happened to already have come up during the course of the call or conversation, which normally has, I always feel like, oh, like this person needs to buckle up. I could really go on and on here because it's something that is super important to me, and I know to Flory as well.
Yeah. So I think the other thing that we haven't talked about yet are, all the fun stuff that we do both in the office, which we don't currently have, and also the creative ways that we're trying to tie people together now. I think it's definitely something that ties into why, we're something that you should be really proud of, Meg, and I know you are, is that we're in the top 1% of retention for startups, which is something that's, you don't achieve that without trying really hard to make sure that you have a healthy culture and that people are jazzed about their jobs. So I know that's something that Renee, since we've talked about him so much, really misses is our in-office snacks. But what else? What else do we do that's super fun to tie people together?
Oh man. Well, yeah, I think of like my broad mission in the stroke of like making sure we have the best possible team coming in the door from a recruitment perspective, and then making BlockFi like the best place to work. So a lot of that speaks to stuff we've already spoken about, right? Like having this learning culture, supporting everyone's individual growth, like everything we do in like the work sense. But then, yeah, beyond that, we have the really fun stuff that gets thrown on top, which makes it all even more fun. We have like the classics, the coffee, the snacks, all that jazz. But something I love is we do a weekly randomized call we call Chit Chat. We spell chat in Polish because we have a large number of folks in Poland, but it's an opportunity for people across teams, across locations to like get randomly paired, speak to each other that week. We have trivia night tonight. I know we and a lot of basically everyone around the world are all readjusting to this new norm of having everyone be remote. We're really lucky in that we're already very remote and very remote friendly, but it's been a great opportunity to double down on those kind of opportunities to connect and make sure we're all getting the social interaction outside of our dogs and, partners busting in to the room we work. So things like that, we had some really good karaoke times for the team.
We did the Ozarks viewing party, and then I've been listening to the BlockFi playlists on Spotify.
Oh yeah, Manisha on our team has done an amazing job of being our remote virtual DJ. What else? I feel like I'm totally blanking. Oh, I mean, we're doing like remote seamless ordering to both make sure that we recreate the in-office lunch thing and we all like can hang out and eat lunch together. It's ends up being perfect happy hour time for the guys in Poland, guys and girls in Poland, and we all can eat lunch together. Yes, we're definitely a food forward.
Yeah, that's the fifth unwritten value.
Must like food, must like dogs.
Exactly.
No assholes.
Yep. Yeah, that one was a battle. So which one was it? Oh, individual effort and collective success originally was the no assholes policy, which is part of our hiring policy. And I really wanted to put that on the website, but some members of the senior team were like, that's not professional. We can't do that. So instead we classed it up a little bit.
Yeah, but it definitely still it runs strong through the BlockFi team. We say it a lot, and I do think it speaks to the no ego, like us before me attitude that everyone has, and it makes a huge difference in all of the work that we do and the experience everyone has of coming to work every day or coming to work virtually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think one other really important thing, I know I'm kind of like jumping around a little bit, but that we do that's very different from other companies. Earlier on, you said you tell people like we move as fast as you do. I love like our hyper promotion plan, which is when we identify people that are high performers and that can handle a lot of responsibility, we're not afraid to just throw a lot at them very quickly. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how that works?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, BlockFi moves way faster than an ordinary company, and we think that like careers should be able to move at the same pace if you're like instrumentally building something that we're doing and proving your ability to take on more at a fast pace. So we, in terms of literally structuring that, we just like to think of things more, for one, not on a personal timeline, not in a company timeline. So we're not so rigid in our thinking about performance that, okay, you've come on, we've established your role, we'll revisit that in a year. Like that would just be unrealistic, both because we are evolving so quickly, we're working so quickly, we're building, and so that wouldn't make sense in the first place. But beyond that, we like to say like a 3-month timeline and a 6-month timeline is a more effective benchmark for people that are moving really quickly. So we've gotten a little bit more, structured around that and have gotten to the point of building plans for people to, make career growth jumps in those timeframes as well. Is there anything you would do there?
No, I mean, I just think I'm constantly impressed by, people just fascinate me. And I think watching individuals really just grow so fast. And when you take someone that maybe was in a corporate role, because we hire a lot of people from, you know, X finance or like hedge funds or that type of more corporate structure. And when you take those individuals and you put them in BlockFi, the analogy that I say is, in your old job, you may have been put in a room and you were told, fill this room with your ideas. And at BlockFi, we're in the middle of a field and we're telling people like, hey, we'd like you to build this home with your ideas. And if you want to build 3 other houses and a skyscraper, as long as you build that home, you can do whatever else you want, right? And it's like wide open. And I think it's been amazing to see people like Jake, who's our head of client service, go from joining the team and in less than a year is now managing 5 people. And he is just absolutely wonderful to work with. And I think sometimes in other roles, and I know I've definitely experienced this, people kind of see you as just the responsibilities that you were hired for. And you're never given the opportunity to learn other skills or like expand beyond that. And I think it's really cool to, 1, see how much people are capable of when you give them the opportunity. And 2, just watch how fast people can learn and like step up to the challenge.
Totally. Yeah. Something else we toyed with during the values exercise was the phrase talent, not tenure, which I think, speaks to that philosophy too. And I totally agree. Like org psych has always been super fascinating to me, obviously, looking at my career. But I do think it's been amazing to see what we've been able to achieve with like a relatively small team and see people grow at such a fast pace and just go above and beyond again and again. I think we look to these quiet moments where people were going above and beyond as differentiating moments for our company as a whole.
Awesome. So for the people that are watching this, that are thinking about joining BlockFi and they're looking at, roles that are up, what should they be thinking about if they have like a couple different skills and they're like, oh, I'm a trader and I really want to join, but I'm not sure if I'm the right fit for this. What do you think they should be weighing?
Well, I mean, we have come to a point where we are bringing on people that have some specialized expertise. So it depends on the role, right? If you're looking at something that's asking for 5 to 7 years experience, doing something kind of niche, you should have some sort of background there, obviously. So I don't want to completely overshoot and say like we only look for aptitude, not experience, because there's obviously a balancing act there. But I would think, at your core about like what interests and excites you. And if those are the things, if you're reading a job description from BlockFi and like really excited about that work, think about like the practical realities of the problems you'd be solving, and how you've had to solve similar problems in the past, like whether or not it's exactly in the same, like if the content's not exactly the same, but the context is the same, there could be an amazing fit there. So definitely take the moment to think about like your ability to problem solve, lessons learned in the past, and how you could apply them to the role at hand. I also will give a plug, like I love a note. We get a lot of resumes, and if you don't have the perfect fit for a role, or you do, tell us a little bit. Like I know everyone hates a cover letter, and I do too. I hate writing cover letters, but putting like a frame on why you're a great fit for the role makes a big difference to set you apart.
Yeah, jobs@blockfi.com, right? That's the email.
It's on Greenhouse, so I should know this offhand, but
yeah, I think you can include the note when you're applying, and then you can also email in.
I'm sorry, you're doing the URL, but yes, you can always write to jobs@blockfi.com.
And I'm on that, so I love those emails, especially when they're really well worded. I think I don't like the ones that are more templated, like someone like insert job, here's the rest of my paragraph. But even if it's like 3 sentences, like I love your company, I watched the BlockFi live, I want to be on Meg's team, like that's definitely going to go a very long way.
Yeah, I'm hiring right now for someone. If you're excited about org psych, if you're excited about building an incredible team and culture, please join me. Keep an eye out for my people ops role.
Yeah, what are the top jobs that we're looking to hire right now?
Let's see. We're looking for a head of content. We're really excited. We just filled a role that we're jazzed about on Flori's team, our director of business of operations. Excuse me, or did we say biz ops?
Director of business operations, but as operations, it's going to be everything.
Right, exactly. Head of content is going to be an exciting one on the growth side. On the institutional services side, we are looking for sort of a mid-level trading candidate, and we'll be growing there more. We're looking for a KYC analyst on the compliance side of the business. We are going to be looking for a product manager with some startup or fintech experience. So if you fit that profile, we'd love to hear from you. Yeah, always hiring though. We're growing a lot. Definitely keep your eye on that page, and we always welcome a note at jobs@blockfi.com for sure. So yeah, you can tell for sure when it's a copy paste. So anyone though who's listening to this, who's excited about what we're building at BlockFi and feels like you might be able to join the team and build something cool, definitely reach
Yeah,
out.
we're still, and the thing is, it's really exciting. I think it's definitely a tough time right now in many different parts of the world. We've all had friends that have been laid off, and we're starting to see the start of some more volatile times for the economy in the US. So, as one of the founders, I'm really happy that our business specifically isn't affected by this, and that we can continue growing, continue hiring, and that basically, unfortunately, the only difference is that for people that are looking to join the New York office, you're going to be onboarded remotely. So we'll just send the laptop and the extra screen to your house, and you'll get to meet us in person down the line. But I think we're really fortunate to be in such a great position, having had the recent raise. And it makes me, really proud to be able to give people something exciting to continue to work on through a time that's otherwise very challenging.
Yeah, I totally do. I totally agree. And I think this kind of goes back to something we talked about at the beginning, which is like how the people on our team are so awesome, and working with everyone is like such a pleasure. And especially during these weird times, like having our days be spent working on this collective project, we are so fortunate that, our business is doing well and we can continue to grow. But at the end of the day, it's like the people you work with that make all the difference. And I think that really is the most important thing for us here at BlockFi.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Meg. This was so much fun. I hope that everyone listening learned a lot.
BMO, clearly the more loyal of the two dogs.
Yeah, more loyal and more bored.
Yeah, it was really good talking to you, Flori. Thanks for doing it.
Bye. Miss you, Meg.